Now we go to Larry Sparano with some analysis. Hey there, how are you?
Hey Ken, how you doing?
What do you think?
Well, I think one of the big speculations that come out of what happened yesterday is whether there are cracks now among the Republicans.
Hmm.
Three Republican senators have already signaled that they are willing to consider bringing in new witnesses. If they get a fourth senator, that would allow that to happen. So some people who are against Trump are are wringing their hands and salivating that this could be the beginning of a swelling into the 20 GOP senators that would be needed in order to remove Trump from office. Whether that'll occur, though, I'm still highly skeptical.
I mean, I think a lot of that would depend on how the poll numbers are at the end of the week. Uh,
Exactly, which is what we've been talking about, that the
right.
Republicans have to be sufficiently stirred up against Trump to put enough pressure on GOP senators to go along with the removal. But again, so far, I don't see that happening. Now, if they bring in those new witnesses, possibly there could be more of a resentment against Trump among the general population, but that's still a long way to go at this point.
I mean, and also, I felt looking at the events yesterday that Trump's lawyers seemed really pretty much unprepared, or they didn't really have much of a case. I mean, they definitely want to stay away from the facts.
Yeah, that's also interesting. It's one of these situations where the arguments are persuasive from both sides, and depending on who you hear last, you come across with an impression for or against Trump. But don't forget, there's going to be competing sound bites between the conservative and liberal news media,
Right.
where the sound bites that are damaging to Trump would be played by the liberal media,
Yeah.
and the ones that are favorable to Trump will be played by Fox and other conservative media. So again, with the mishmash, I don't know if that much ground is being gained, even if it becomes more apparent that Trump is guilty of the offenses as charged.
Right. Well, I mean, do you think that O'Connell made a mistake in terms of how he originally had set up the schedule and then he had to back off on that?
Well, there's another indication that he is feeling pressure from some of the
Yeah,
dissenting
right,
GOP senators because apparently he did it in response to their wanting to
right.
extend it so it appears more fair to the public.
Yeah,
And part of the strategy there was McConnell wanted to compress it into 2 days so that a lot of these
right,
would be late night sessions when
right,
there'd be less viewing from the public. Now
right.
it's going to be stretched out to 3 days so more people could tune in. But here's another factor: how many people are actually listening to this or listening to it for any length? People may tune in and out, but I think the effect so far is, it's back and forth. This is endless warfare between the two parties, and people are sick of it and
Yeah,
tuning out. That's
yeah.
how I read it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't, I think I don't know. That's hard to say. I mean, I think once we get the polls and I guess there'll be ratings too to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But how did you feel uh, about sort of the whole what's happening at Fox News? Have you been watching it? How are they playing it? I mean, I assume.
I didn't see much of it yesterday, but of course, what they do is they pull apart the arguments from the Democrats
Yeah,
convincingly if you don't have a lot of information.
right,
And the
exactly. Yeah,
same thing on MSNBC, their arguments against Trump are convincing
yeah,
unless you have more information. Again, Kent, there's no real black and white here. As I've
yeah.
said a
No,
number
I
of
agree.
times, there was quid pro quo. But
Right.
again, people see this as part of of political warfare, payback. I gotcha, and the hypocrisy because whether Democrats want to believe this or not, I think this whole thing about Hunter Biden is scoring a lot of points with people saying, it's good for the goose, but not for the gander. So why pick on Trump if Biden and his son were doing the same thing? They keep saying, well, there was no law broken. Perhaps not technically, but that just is not an ethical approach where the vice president's son gets put on this board where he's making tons of money while the vice president himself, the father, is in charge of U.S. relations with Ukraine, demanding that the prosecutor that was investigating, among other things,
No,
the
apparently
board,
he wasn't. He
the
wasn't
business that
investigating.
Hunter was on, be fired.
But
So you could
apparently,
say that was quid pro quo.
No, but apparently he was not being investigated at the time that Vice President Biden made that decision to.
Well, I mean, there's different stories.
Right,
Whether, was it in between and would be
right,
resuming
exactly.
again, and he made sure it would not resume.
Right,
So again, first of all, if Biden was really ethical, would
yeah,
he allow his son to be making millions of dollars sitting on a board in Ukraine for a position which he's totally unqualified for? Well,
yeah,
he's the vice president of the United States. It may not be legal, but is it ethical?
yeah,
It's to me, it shows how they're all in on it, all
right,
feeding at the trough in
right,
one way or another, and the public realizes that.
right, right.
Again, it was quid pro quo on Trump's part.
Yeah,
I think that's obvious. But
yeah,
again, it's like if you're going to go after Trump, go after the others as well, including Biden.
yeah, yeah. All right, sir. Well, thank you. Well, I'm going to go get some sleep so I can get ready for today's
More ahead, yeah.
adventure. Right.
Okay,
Take
sir.
care. See you now. Bye.